Welcome back to the show that's funny, jolly, and good. The podcast It's Always Sunny in Hollywood. Every Sunday at noon, we three meet online to discuss movies that are top tier or just fine. Sometimes, yeah, they can be bad, but those are very few and far. My name is Patrick, and joining me are.
Hi, I'm Lugia. I cannot rhyme. So, it's showtime. Fuck.
I'm Red Drum Arts. I'm the cat in the sack.
Yeah, this intro was a little bit whack.
Balls. By sack, I mean bed, not balls.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell by the rhyming, today we're talking about Dr. Seuss movies. Yes, back to the realm of Seuss.
Yes, everyone's favorite
Everyone's
propaganda
favorite,
cartoonist.
everyone's favorite doctor.
Anyway, news. Let's see. Ed Piskor, comic artist. He made this comic called WYSIWYG, what I highly recommend. He apparently killed himself after getting accusations of sexual impropriety. Although no one's actually sure if the accusations are real or not. I don't know. It's a real messy story, but I wanted to just say something because I am a fan of his work. His YouTube channel is pretty good too. So, I'm feeling a bit conflicted because again, he did get accusations, which is why he killed himself. But WYSIWYG is basically like the comic that I saw was WYSIWYG, which I read in high school. It was basically like Catch Me If You Can, but it's about like hackers and it's like heavily inspired by a bunch of like early hackers in like the 80s and 90s. I don't know, I'd still recommend it. I still recommend watching his YouTube videos if you want to get like an understanding of how to, because like basically his videos was him like taking a bunch of like comic legends and like kind of analyzing their work and how they like presented stuff. It's sort of like it's kind of like that Tarantino podcast where they kind of talk about movies. Where it's like a podcast of someone analyzing the medium that they're actually like a part of and know a lot about. So, if more information comes out about the allegations, I get any evidence or something, I guess I'll mention that later down the road. But for now, we don't actually know much information. So yeah. Anyway, more lighthearted news.
Yes, so speaking of Dr. Seuss, so this past month, or a few weeks ago rather, we got some word on an upcoming animated film based on The Cat in the Hat. This was announced a while ago, but we got some more information on it. Mainly that the titular character will be voiced by Bill Hader.
Nice.
The film is releasing in 2 years, 2026. And it's written and directed by Alessandro Carloni and Erica Rivinoja. Carloni is a DreamWorks veteran, and Rivinoja she was a writer for South Park for about 10 years. And she also co-wrote the Borat sequel. Interesting choice for a Cat in the Hat movie, but...
I mean, Bill Hader used to write on South Park too.
Alright, so we got South Park veterans helming an animated Cat in the Hat movie.
Is this gonna be a 3D animated movie or 2D?
I imagine 3D.
When was the last time you saw a 2D animated film in theaters that wasn't Japanese?
The Bob's Burgers movie 2 years ago.
That doesn't count, but okay.
It's 2D animated.
One that isn't like just a TV movie.
One that isn't a TV movie? I'll have to get back to you on that.
I guess Wolfwalkers. I didn't see that in theaters though, because that was during COVID, so that doesn't even count.
It was also an Apple TV thing. I know it was in select theaters, but whatever.
No wide release thing. Last wide release like 2D anime thing that people actually watched was like Princess and Frog. I don't know, 15 years ago.
Back to the Cat in the Hat upcoming. What do we have any thoughts on this?
Have to wait for a trailer.
What studio's animating it?
It's Warner Brothers.
I'll be surprised if that movie even comes out. Given like their current track record with releasing animated stuff. Is that Looney Tunes movie coming out? Not the Acme one, the other one.
The animated one? From what I hear, yes.
Alright, well, hopefully if that does well, then
I'll be open-minded. I need to see more.
Is it 2D or 3D? Because I thought it was gonna be 3D, but since like you said, it's Warner Brothers, it might be 2D because that Looney Tunes movie is 2D.
I don't know. I imagine it's likely going to be 3D since, that's what studios do nowadays. But like I'd be totally down for a 2D animated Dr. Seuss movie.
Man, if the upcoming Looney Tunes movie is successful, like I'm gonna be so happy because that means that like we might actually get like decent American animation again. Like not all we got right now is like Disney and like Pixar and all that's kind of floundering. The kind of Sony style is starting to pick up. All this stuff that's getting popular right now is just 3D stuff trying to look like 2D, and I'm like, just train people to do 2D, and that'd be great. So this, the day the Earth blew up, and I think Gendy Tartakovsky is making an R-rated 2D animated adult comedy animated film. So if those two are successful, then I think we're gonna be in a good spot.
Again, diverting back to the Cat in the Hat for a second. What do we think of Bill Hader playing the cat?
Yeah, he can do it.
It could work.
He's good. He played like Fear and Inside Out. You know, he was gonna
Like,
be
I
that
love
Neo.
Bill Hader, so I can definitely see him bringing this type of energy to the Cat in the Hat.
I can see him doing like that kind of wacky
But, like,
thing.
what
'Cause,
kind of energy though? Because I doubt it's gonna be the same as like Mike Myers.
Yeah, no, I imagine something kind of like Flint Lockwood, another character he voiced.
I was thinking more of like a whimsical kind of like a Mary Poppins. If Mary Poppins was a lot wackier.
So Mike Myers, Cat in the Hat.
No, because this Mike Myers kind of has like if Mary Poppins was like a bad person, not just kind of having his own kind of silly logic, you know, like a Willy Wonka thing. I guess I'm thinking of Willy Wonka. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I can definitely see Bill Hader working. You know who I always kind of thought would make an interesting Cat in the Hat? Neil Patrick Harris. Granted, I'm thinking in terms of like a production of Seussical, where he's kind of like the omnipotent narrator.
Yeah,
'Cause I
that could
feel
work.
like I feel like Neil Patrick Harris has that showmanship, especially like that year he hosted the Tonys. Like I could
Yeah.
definitely see him bringing that to the Cat in the Hat. But I guess is it now time we actually get into the Cat in the Hat that currently exists?
Do you want to start with that first?
That came out first.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel it makes sense. What do you guys think?
Yeah, whatever you're cool with.
Besides, I have a segue from it to Horton, so
All right.
So, The Cat in the Hat from 2003. This was the first and, as of 2024, only film to be directed by Bo Welch, who is a production designer on numerous films, including Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, and Men in Black. Now, the rights to make a film adaptation of The Cat in the Hat were bought in the late 90s, and originally, Tim Allen was set to play the title role, and the script was going to be written based on a concept by Allen himself, and I find this very fascinating because according to an article from 2000, he talked a bit about it, and he said that, quote, "My dream is to give it the edge that scared me as a child." And he compared it to Alien, of all things. He said, like Alien, we see very little of the cat. He's a human being who turns into a cat, like a werewolf or a vampire, as he gets more and more frustrated with these kids. Unquote.
The fuck?
I have no idea. According to Tim Allen, the Cat in the Hat book scared him as a kid, and he wanted to bring that edge to the movie.
Tim
In a
Allen?
sense, he succeeded, but I'm getting ahead of
He had
myself.
He had nothing to do with what ended up happening, because this version of the film never came to be, because by the time production started, he was busy with the Santa Claus 2. So the studio took a different approach. They got new writers to write a different draft, and they had to get somebody else to play the cat. And they considered the likes of Will Ferrell, Robin Williams, and Billy Bob Thornton. Eventually, it went to Mike Myers. But the thing is, Myers didn't want to do the film, but he was kind of contractually obligated to. What happened was this. Myers originally had a contract with producer Brian Grazer to make a movie based on an SNL sketch that Myers was going to write. But Myers kept on rewriting the script, but he could never get it to his liking. So he decided not to do it. But the thing is, he was still contractually obligated to make a movie with Brian Grazer. And the fact that they needed a cat, he's like, here, take the role. And he's like, all right.
That's not very groovy, baby.
And Myers did not enjoy working on this film. In fact, other than his assistant and Bo Welch, he didn't talk to anybody on set. And he also had a person on standby who would... No, he also had a person on standby who would feed him chocolates whenever he got frustrated. And apparently, he had a lot of creative input on the film. Like, because this was Bo Welch's first time making a movie, he would have Myers. He would like do a scene and then ask Myers, "All right, do you want to do another take?" And he would leave it up to him whether or not it stayed in the film or if they redid it.
That's
So
that's like objectively not good directing, dude. What the fuck?
I don't know.
You're not supposed to do. Oh God. Cillian Murphy once in an interview said that like one time he did like he was working with the director and like after the take, the director like asked him that question and he was like like what the fuck, man? No, you're supposed to be. What's going on here?
You're supposed to
just
tell
reading-
me how I'm doing my job.
Yeah, like we want the validation. We're the needy ones.
I'm just reading what I found in research.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying like damn. I'm not surprised Bo didn't direct another movie then.
I mean, it was his
Shit.
first time making a movie, but still.
Here's the. I don't think a lot of like people realize a good amount of directing is like the performances. So if the performances are bad in a flick, it's kind of the director's fault.
So, The Cat in the Hat released in November 2003, where it was critically panned and it made 133.9 million against a budget of 109. So, due to its critical and commercial failure, a follow-up film based on the sequel book The Cat in the Hat Comes Back was canceled, and all future adaptations were prohibited from ever being made in live action again. Now, animation, though, we'll save that for later. So, how do you adapt a simple children's book like The Cat in the Hat into a movie? Well, it more or less has the same basic outline of a plot. Two kids are left at home alone on a rainy day, and they're greeted by a cat with a box with two things in it. But where it takes some liberties is that the box itself is an interdimensional portal to another realm, and apparently if it's not locked, then all hell breaks loose. And it just so happens that the lock is on the kid's dog's collar, and the kid's dog has escaped, and now they need to get it back from their mother's boyfriend and lock the crate. And yeah, this is the Cat in the Hat I remember, right?
You know, parallel worlds.
Parallel worlds.
Threatening to send a kid
sex
to
jokes.
military school.
So what do we think?
I think I'll start.
By
So,
all means.
we briefly touched upon this last time. This movie fucking traumatized me as a kid.
How so?
I think the biggest thing was the costumes. I thought the Cat in the Hat was scary to look at, and I think I can pinpoint why. It's his face. Because you could see, like, the outlining of where his face is with the rest of the costume.
It looks like you ever go to like a boardwalk and like that
Like one of those cutout insert your
those
face.
Yeah.
things where you're like that's what it looks like. And also there's like so unlike like Jim Carrey's thing where they like have built-in wrinkles, there's like so much like caked in here. It just kind of looks like a dude got pied in the face.
There's that. There's the way he talks, the way he laughs, the way he runs. Good lord. The Thing's faces also freaked me out as a kid. It's kind of like a similar thing with the Who's in How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But I don't know why.
lips.
I don't know why. I always thought the Things looked more creepy.
Yeah, the thing is like the things look way worse than the Who's and like
I think it's
Grinch,
the
honestly.
it's
It
their
was just
rampant energy.
that the camera lens and also like I don't do they even have ears? Like I don't remember if they had ears or not.
I think they do.
I'm googling this again because Thing 1 and Thing 2 live action. Nope, they don't have ears. And like it looks like their face is like pulled back a bit. It's weird. Like they're missing like several features. Their eyebrows are drawn on. They have like wrinkles, but it's like they kind of look like the apes from like the Planet of the Apes movies, but like without like a bunch of extra shit on it. I don't know. It throws me off. I don't get why they were so married to the no upper lip thing, because like a lot of cartoons don't have upper lips, and like when they're translated to live action, they don't just like do it.
I guess because the Dr.
doubt,
Seuss style is it's very
Yeah, but, like,
obvious.
That's a lot of stuff. Like if you're doing a live action Simpsons, you're not gonna have like all the characters have like massive overbites. You're not gonna have like Homer's mouth is drawn the exact same way Dr. Seuss's mouths are drawn. Like I don't know. Seems stupid to me.
So here's my thing. So I'm going to say what I've always said. If you look at this movie as an adaptation of The Cat in the Hat, yeah, it is highly questionable. But if you look at it as a shitpost inspired by The Cat in the Hat, it is a treasure trove.
I guess I'm just more so confused by a lot of the choices here. I mean, I guess in some parts it's kind of funny, but I don't think it's trying to be funny where it is. I mean, I guess some of the gags I do like are the Rhode Island license plate one and the Universal Studios gag, but that's also because we meme on those a lot, especially as kids.
Here's the thing: all the gags that people like make fun of are honestly kind of funny, and all the gags that people don't make fun of, which is like there's a lot. Here's the thing: like going into this movie, I thought I was going to enjoy it more just because like there's like so many gags I remember. But that's the thing. It turns out all the gags we remembered and memed on and made fun of, those are the only funny gags in the movie. The rest of it sucked. And anytime like a joke that I didn't remember or didn't meme on happened, like stuff that like people don't quote and make fun of, it's like oddly enough, the stuff that people make fun of is all the good stuff, but all the bad stuff is like everything else. Is like I didn't find any of the jokes in between like Dirty Ho, Quick to the Slow, the super hydro, like that stuff was funny, but all the stuff like in between it wasn't. And I think the thing that bothered me the most is that for some reason every time Mike Myers like made a joke and like before they cut to the other characters, they would always like hold it on a frame, like they just hold on the reaction for like half a second too long, and it would be like really awkward. And I feel like maybe that was like, oh, they expected like the audience to laugh there or something, but like it just came off like really awkward. It's like when you watch like a YouTube video and like a YouTube commentary video. Some like really poor ones like do this thing where they'll like, they'll play a clip and then they'll make their joke reacting to the clip, and then they'll hold it on for like just a second too long, and it makes it like immediately it kind of like ruins the suspension of disbelief where you're like, okay, this is just like a dude talking to a camera, like waiting for his cue. He's just reading lines. Is like, I don't know, it kind of breaks the immersion for me. It kind of like ruins the comedy. And like even like Mike Myers, like sometimes after he says the joke, he kind of like drops his expression, and it's like it's really awkward. I don't get like why the editor did that.
A while ago, I saw a video where it was two college film students watching this movie for the first time. And like midway through, one of them turned to the other and said, "This movie has aged surprisingly well." And he was referring
How?
to the. He said that the humor in this movie is equivalent to Gen Z humor.
I don't like Gen Z humor though. It's like really, really bad and predictable. Like I'm gonna be honest, I like people will sometimes show me a funny thing from TikTok and it's not funny at all. I don't get what the appeal of like that website is, man. Don't know what every like TikTok joke is. It's something like absurdist, and like one character is just like completely like casual about it. And everyone else is like, "Whoa, what the fuck? That's an absurdist thing." It's like the exact same joke every time. Those fucking TikTok people that SNL hired also do that shtick, and it's not funny. Like it's the same joke. Oh, someone's like making some sort of meme reference, but saying in like this really casual, disaffected tone. It's like it's too repetitive. TikTok is like ridiculously repetitive, and like it's even like actually repetitive. Where like people, if someone makes a joke, it'll become like a trend or a meme to like do that exact same joke. Or like if an account pops off with like one TikTok, they'll make that exact same TikTok over and over and over again. It's like I don't get this platform because it just encourages nonstop repetition. Is mind numbing to me. If you scroll through TikTok, you'll see like the exact five same things like in a row, just with different people. It's like I don't get it. But now that you mention it, yeah, this does kind of have that vibe. So yeah, I guess it aged well, but I don't like what it. I don't like that.
It's
So
influential in modern culture. God help us.
yeah, this is like when I found out that like that what's that Lonely Island movie? Not Popstar, the one before that, Hot Rod. Lonely Island was like oddly influential. Actually, here's my question. So like people are like Lonely Island was influential to like millennial comedy. And like I just kind of took that at face value. But like that SNL like TikTok guys that they hired, those guys are just kind of following just kind of like the humor that was like online at the time. So were they so like I feel like in retrospect, years later, people are gonna be like, "Oh, those guys are super influential." But I'm like, no, they weren't. They were just doing what everyone else was doing. They just happened to have the connections to get on SNL. And I was like, oh. This isn't just on like TikTok, but this is on like a TV in general. Like I notice there's a lot of jokes nowadays, and I blame Dan Harmon for this, but it's when they say a joke, they'll like go like they'll just like overly explain it. And it's like it's almost like meant to be an anti-joke, where it's like, ah, well, as a man from the 50s, I am not emotionally equipped for this stuff. I'm gonna walk out now. And it was like I get like it's an anti-joke, but like it's so common, it annoys the shit out of me. It's just bad writing to me. If it's only funny like in contrast, but if that's just like what everyone does, it's just bad writing to me then. It's like this overly pathological therapy speak. You guys ever seen the Workaholics board?
What?
No.
Okay, so I never seen Workaholics, but the writers for Workaholics had a list of lines that you can never use in the show, and it was basically just like every single like millennial trope in writing like together, and I was like, wow, these people like got it. So it was like, can you not? I can explain, or like the JJ wait for it, you know, awkward, like shit like that. It was just like I was like when I like saw this list, I was like, man, every like millennial sitcom has its jokes. It was like it kind of like made like I remember like watching like an episode of like Gravity Falls after like seeing this board. I was like, ah, fuck. Like Gravity Falls is still pretty funny, but like made me reflect on how generic a lot of writing is sometimes. I was like, ah. And then I'm like remembering like who are all my favorite, like what are all the funniest movies I've seen, and like none of the funny movies I've seen are from like sitcom writers or even like comedians. It's from like the Coen brothers, and I was like, I guess like good comedy is good writing. It was weird. It's like sometimes like someone who's like a good funny stand-up comedian or like a good sitcom writer, they won't make a good movie, or like a good sitcom writer won't be good in like it's kind of weird. And speaking of like comedians who don't like I think Mike Myers is like really funny, like Shrek, Austin Powers, Wayne's World, and like for some reason I don't know why, but
He's just not funny in
the
this.
it's not that he's not funny in here. It's like it's something like particularly like again, some of the lines are funny, some of the delivers are funny, but something about his performance overall is like he seems tired. If that makes sense. Like, did you guys notice that?
Yeah, I felt
At
like
certain points.
to me it
Like I
felt
feel
like he was trying too hard to get a reaction.
what it feels like is like a guy who's really tired and like just putting up a front. So it's like a guy who like came like back from work after getting like yelled at by like his boss and like almost getting fired, and then he has to go home to like his kids and just like pretend that everything's okay. And like when you mention like the behind the scenes that like he didn't want to do this, he was kind of forced into it. He had someone feed him chocolate. I was like, yeah, I can definitely get that. That's what it like feels like. Someone's like, oh, I just need to get through this day. Just get through this film shoot, and I can. I just need to just get through it like that. That's what it felt like. Just a guy who just needed to get through it. And he was trying his just hardest to just get through it. The funniest jokes like in this is when like his character just kind of like just like dropped it. Was like, aha, I'm a super cliff feline, and then his character's just like, is this shit working for you guys? Like, it's like that kind of cracked me up because it felt like kind of honest. Like I feel like Mike was just kind of being himself. It was like, I'm not so good with the rhyming thing. It's like, is this shit?
I'm a
Like
cat
there was
that
a
can
few
talk. That should be enough for you.
yeah, it's like there was a few points in this movie where like Mike, he kind of like he was doing this like ha ha ha, and then like you can just see him. He's just like tired. I was like, is this shtick working? Like he didn't like say those words, but like it just kind of felt like he was saying is like, is this working? Like, do you guys like, are you guys enjoying this shit?
Move aside from Mike Myers and the humor for a second. Can we talk about the production design?
It's good. I mean,
The
I don't know what to say.
colors are so bright.
We're on Candy Cane Lane.
Again, Bo Welch was a production designer. Like, you can definitely tell. Like, these sets are, like, incredible. But I will admit, the one thing that throws me off, the color scheme doesn't match the book. Because the book is blue, white, red, and black. This is pink and green.
Yeah,
And, like,
I don't know
like
why.
it like I don't mind it. Like it's a nice combination, but like I think of Splatoon when I think blue and green. I mean pink and green. I don't think Dr. Seuss.
And there's a lot of like there's a lot of goo and stuff getting splattered around here. So yeah,
And
this
that
kind of
goo's
does remind me of
purple.
Splatoon a lot. What I kind of find funny about this movie is like in retrospect is like, have you guys noticed that like a lot of like 2000s and late 90s movies look like this, like early 2000s,
Yeah.
like they got like that camera lens, that Barry Sonnenfeld, like that, the very like Coen Brothers influence kind of like camera lens where it's like it's got that kind of like wide angle distortion. Is like Son of the Mask had it too. The Spider-Man movies had it. Pirates of the Caribbean even had it to like an extent. Even like Lord of the Rings like had it in some points. Where like I guess they really like having wacky lenses that kind of emphasize like certain things in the center of the frame a lot. That's what I noticed. This movie also kind of feels like proto Wes Anderson. Like everyone's like obviously going to compare it to Tim Burton and whatnot, and it does feel very Tim Burton. It does feel very Addams Family, but like what kind of remind me of is like kind of like Grand Budapest. Moonrise Kingdom, Grand Budapest Hotel, like that era of Wes Anderson, with like the the flat, like, kind of pastel color, background sets. The only difference is like Wes didn't like have like lenses that like emphasize like the center of the frame and like the facial expressions as much. Like that's the only kind of real difference. But even like some of his earlier stuff did have that. Like Rushmore and like Royal Tenenbaums had that like a little bit, like not as much, but like a little bit. It kind of feels like the in between of Tim Burton and Wes Anderson at times. Because Tim Burton did have those like wacky lenses a bit more, Oingo Boingo music videos. I don't know. Have you guys seen like any late 80s or like 90s music videos?
A few.
Probably. I just can't think of any directly off the top of my head.
It kind of reminds me of how they shot some of those. Like, it reminds me of like some late 90s like filming techniques applied to like maybe some more like 80s kind of like set design. It's interesting, It feels very 2000s, but I can definitely see like an 80s and 90s influence on it, which interests me. I still think it's crazy that the most recent thing that Bo Welch was production designer on was Thor. It's like that doesn't seem right, but
I do not equate.
Men in Black 3,
I do not equate the look of Thor with the look of the Cat in the Hat. So that is.
It does kind of have like the Dutch
Thor Ragnarok maybe, but not like the original Thor.
He hasn't really like done like any like movie work since Men in Black 2. After Men in Black 2, Men in Black 3, sorry. After Men in Black 3, what he did was whatchamacallit, he worked on that Series of Unfortunate Events Netflix show, which does make sense. That kind of feels like him. And yeah, that's it. He directed 5 episodes of A Series of Unfortunate Events. So he also directed 2 episodes of that Patrick Warburton Tick show, so that's kind of cool. Okay, so he's done more directing work after Cat in the Hat and before.
Yeah,
it's
just
film,
not movie. Yeah, not
movies.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys a question. If you could have any prop from any movie ever, what would you want? Because my answer, I want the oversized pen from this movie.
Why that specifically?
What counts as a prop?
Because it's completely pointless, and it literally says large oversized pen that requires 2 hands, and it's usable.
What counts as a prop?
Like not a costume, like an object.
The DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Alright, that counts.
Honestly, I would probably go with that too.
I don't know. I'm trying to think.
But an oversized pen.
I used to have something, but I can't think of it. It was like as an actual like item, but like it's like on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember.
The ring from Lord of the Rings.
No. Also, did you know the ring from Lord of the Rings is like they made multiple, and one of them is really, really big because they had like shots where they wanted
like
force
a practical
perspective,
ring, like a practical giant ring.
They're like a giant ring because in some shots they want to kind of like a forced perspective thing to like emphasize it and stuff. It's kind of interesting. It's like something that like a cartoon would do where they would like make it like seem. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like if you look into like behind the scenes filmmaking of that. One thing that like when I rewatched The Two Towers like a month ago or something, and what throws me off about like all these Lord of the Rings movies is like that I never really thought of as like, man, Gandalf is like significantly taller than like everyone else, and like all the other like the hobbits are actually like kind of small. I was like, when I watch like Darby O'Gill and The Little People, like it is fully convincing, but like because it's like shot in that kind of old style, you can like it kind of like emphasizes the fact that this effect is going on. But like when I watched Lord of the Rings, like I didn't even realize that they were doing this forced perspective thing, and I was like, wait, like that's pretty smooth. Shout out Lord of the Rings. We're probably never gonna talk about you on the podcast, so might as well talk about you when I can. What were we talking about again? Oh, props. Yeah,
props. Yes.
I don't know, lightsaber.
Would it function as a lightsaber in real life, or would it just be like a?
No, like if it's like an actual prop, like no, obviously not. But yeah, I don't know, wand from Harry Potter. I mean, I don't even like Harry Potter that much. So not really. I'm trying to think. It was like I really like Pirates of the Caribbean, but like, what prop would I even take from Pirates of the Caribbean? The boat. Yeah, but that's I want the Black Pearl, the entire fucking ship. Yeah, I want the Batmobile from the Nolan Batman movies. The tank and the motorcycle. Oh, actually, a lot of these are vehicles. Like movies and TV shows have so many cool vehicles. Even the vehicle in this movie is pretty cool. The
Super
Was it
hydraulic instantaneous transporter. Oh
No,
wait,
no,
that's
not
that's
the
a
shit.
cut
The other
name.
one. The other one. What's the other one?
Super luxurious omnidirectional whatchamajigga.
Yeah, that would be a nice car to have, I guess. Yeah, give me Bumblebee from the Herbie from the Herbie movies, and not Bumblebee. I want shout out to the real goat, the Love Bug. I'll take the I got one. I'll take the expired pineapple from Chunking Express. If I limit it to like props from like a movie we've talked about, that might be easier actually. Let's see, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. There's a couple things from there that'd be kind of cool, like the Pixel Sword, the Power of Love, or no, the Power of Self-Respect.
The door to the forget the name of it, but it's like a door that Ramona takes. Subspace Highway.
Oh yeah, that one. Remember the costume from the Green? Oh wait, the Green Hornet had like a double-barreled gun. That was kind of cool. Like I don't even like that movie, but like I remembered that. So yeah. Actually, going through this, do you know what the set design of this movie reminded me of a lot?
What?
But I'm a cheerleader.
That
I
makes
can see
sense.
that.
It,
Also, Speed Racer.
We did compare the production design
Oh,
in that
fuck.
movie to But I'm a
Mach 5,
Cheerleader.
the Speed Racer movie. Holy shit. I want the Mach from the Speed. Fuck the DeLorean. I want the Mach 5. Holy shit. That'd be awesome. Yeah, new answer. Mach 5 from Speed Racer. That would be fucking awesome. Holy shit, dude.
I'm still going with the giant pen. I'm sorry.
Not even Juno's hamburger phone.
The spoon.
That's a
pictures
close
from the
second,
room.
but
The spoon photos from the room. Just all of them. Nostalgia Critic's costume from all the Nostalgia Critic. Wait, that's a costume. That's not a prop. Okay. Doesn't Holes have like a couple weird props? I'm trying to remember.
there was a treasure chest.
Yeah, the
There
lipstick.
were shovels. There were shoes.
The walk. I want the wire. The fucking the wire. That's what I want. My way. I am so French and
So Cat in the Hat. Can we get back to that?
Actually,
The titular
I'll take
movie
the
about the
shark-
Cat in the Hat.
I'll take
in
the
our
shark
discussion
claws.
of the Cat in the Hat, we've been talking a lot about the Cat in the Hat. What about the other characters?
Sally and Conrad do basically nothing for most of it. I mean, in terms of like
Yeah,
the cat is there to show them how to have fun. He's the one having all the fun. He's the one who had the musical number. He's the one who made the cupcakes. The kids just watched as it happened. I mean, granted, even in the book, the kids didn't do anything. They just watched him bounce on a ball, and then the things were unleashed, and they tried to.
What annoyed me, and I said this while we were watching the movie, but what annoyed me is that I feel like Dakota Fanning kind of played the kind of like bitchy, like Lisa Simpson type girl, like the Daria, like the snarky is like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. Like I feel like she played that character kind of all right, but the kid Spencer Breslin, Conrad, yeah, Conrad. I feel like he played it too monotone. Like his whole thing was his character was meant to be like kind of the wild child. He was meant to be like a Calvin and Hobbes or Bart Simpson type thing, and he had no energy to him at all. And like the children just kind of seemed like the same character. And I feel like Dakota Fanning seemed like a little hoity-toity, which works, but like Spencer just kind of seemed like completely flat, and I feel like it didn't work for me. If I wrote the movie, I would make Conrad Spencer. I'd be like he would be into the Cat in the Hat. Like he'd be like, oh hell yeah. But and like maybe his like conflict would be like he really enjoys what the cat is doing, but he also knows that like he'll go into military school, so he's kind of trying to like shut it down, but he also like can't help but get into it a little bit.
I mean, they kind of lean into him being into the cat when they start jumping on the couch, but that's like the only time it happens.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I feel like that's the thing. Like they're at odds with the cat the whole movie. They don't actually like show that they kind of like it, and then they're like kind of real. Like I feel like it should have been like Home Alone, where like Kevin is like just having a blast like for the first half, and then he realizes like, oh fuck, there's gonna be consequences to this. Or like, oh shit, my family's never coming back. Like there needs to be there was like no real journey, and that annoyed me. Alec Baldwin was kind of fun though.
What was his deal? Why did he want to send Conrad to military school? Like he wasn't even really an uptight guy. He was a slob.
He didn't like kids. He just didn't like
He
kids.
even called Sally a stuck up.
No, he called her a suck up. Emphasis on the p.
And don't forget the teeth chatter.
Oh, like I remember that Inspector Gadget thing is like, oh, I gotta get out of here. This movie is shot pretty similar to Inspector Gadget, by the way, camera lens wise. I did not realize that was Kelly Preston.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, she looks like so different in like those 80 movies I've seen her in. So I was actually like, I did not realize that that was her in this movie. It's probably weird, but I think she actually looks better and like older than she did in the 80s. She aged like fine wine. Yeah, let's see. Kelly Preston, she was okay. I mean, she's serviceable. I feel like Kelly Preston gave like the only like actual like convincing performance. Like, cause she was like kind of the emotional thing. Like, she was the only person that felt like a person in this movie. The boss was just kind of like over the top. I honestly like we meme on the boss so much because of like that fucking you're
You're
fired.
fired.
But like his performance is actually like kind of bad. Like I'm gonna be honest, like it was kind of painful watching that shit.
Well,
I
he's
don't
not in
know.
Well,
too many
hey,
scenes.
Yeah, I know, but I was like,
yeah, but he's played by Sean Hayes, who also played the fish.
that's a performance I completely forgot about. You know, the fish isn't that bad.
The fish?
He's barely in
Yeah.
the movie, but he's not that bad. I feel like the fish should have been a bigger presence. Like the fish should have been like Jiminy Cricket, like the kind of conscious. That's what should have been. It should have been like a
Mm.
tug of war between like I feel like the fish should have represent like the kind of angel on Spencer on Conrad's shoulder, and the cat should have been like
Mm.
represented the devil on his shoulder.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually kind of impressed by the visual effects around the fish. Like, he didn't look that bad, even for like 2003. Actually, like the effects in general, like I am impressed. Like they mostly used practical effects. Like, granted, like at the end, like you see it's more CGI'd, but like all the different hats that the cat uses and the vehicles, like that's all real stuff. And honestly, it doesn't look bad.
And even the CGI, it's got that kind of like the masked kind of thing going for it, where it's like pretty cartoony, so it doesn't like look too bad. And also, this was like 2003. By 2003, CGI was actually good. I mean, fucking hell. Return of the King came out in 2003, and like the previous year, fucking Gollum. Like Gollum already existed at this point, so like CGI was actually pretty good at this point.
So yeah, like despite what you think about this film, like there's no denying like the creativity, at least in the design.
Here's the thing, like as much as like I like the set design of this, like other movies had good set design at the same time, so it's not like even like Tim Burton made a movie the year this came out, Big Fish. It's a great movie. Big Fish is a very good movie. If I was gonna like tell you to watch like one kind of like movie like for the set design in 2003, I'm picking Big Fish. I'm not picking like this one, you know.
Fair
Who did the
enough.
production design for Big Fish, by the way? Dennis Gassner, who did Truman Show. Yeah. You know, Pirates of the Caribbean came out this year. Return of the King came out this year. Matrix Reloaded. Both Matrix Reloaded. What the fuck? They had two Matrix movies? I didn't realize that they did that. Okay, whatever. Holes came out this year. Okay, we've talked about a bunch of. All right, yeah, 2003. Duh. Fucking Elf came out this year. Oh, that's kind of funny because you mentioned Will Ferrell was like meant to be was like in the talks, and like Elf is kind of like
Elf came out a few weeks before this movie did, so
yeah. So I feel like maybe like if Will Ferrell did the Cat in the Hat, his performance would be pretty similar to his performance in Elf. Spy Kids 3D came out. I honestly, unironically, would kind of recommend people watch Spy Kids 3D over Cat in the Hat. This Cat in the Hat has good set design, but it's set design like you've seen before. You ain't never fucking see the kind of visual Spy Kids 3D has. That shit was
actually, when
insane, dude.
at the end of the movie, when it is like the cat's world mixing with the house, it did kind of remind me of like Shark Boy and Lava Girl or some type of Robert Rodriguez film,
Oh my
where like
god.
it's obvious,
Yeah.
where like it's obviously fake, but like it's so colorful and bizarre that you can't help but be like, yeah, okay.
I can just imagine.
Have you guys
George
seen? Have you
Lopez's
guys seen?
character in the robot, like near the water slide now?
Have you guys seen the Charlie's Angels movies? Because Charlie's
No.
Angels,
No, none of them.
they're kind of bad, but they're kind of amazing at the same time. It's also got that kind of like 2000s like green screen, like super saturated color look to it, and it's like it oddly looks kind of good, and like it's got that Speed Racer quality to it. That's what I'm saying. The Charlie's Angels, and it's like the ending of this kind of reminded me of the Charlie's Angels flicks, almost like the way they're shot. Bad Santa came out this year. Bad Santa, that's another. That's what Billy Bob Thornton would have done. Oh shit!
What was
Wait,
Robin
wait,
Williams
wait, wait.
doing in 2003?
Every single one of these guys were doing their own version of this in 2003.
What was Robin
Like
Williams doing?
Robin Williams?
Because he was also in talks to play the cat.
I mean, I imagine he would have just done the genie from Aladdin, but let me see. Robin Williams filmography. Yeah, it's kind of funny that both Elf and Bad Santa they're like both Christmas things. That's kind of weird.
And this
right?
was released in like around Thanksgiving, so all of them were around the same time.
Yeah.
Weird.
Naturally, Elf was probably the most successful. Bad Santa was probably the second most successful than this. Let's see. And he actually didn't do any movies in 2003, but what's really funny is he did a bunch of movies in 2004 and 2002. And guess what? Almost all of them are thrillers. Do you want to know what he was doing instead of Cat in the Hat?
What?
He was in a Christopher Nolan movie playing a fucking like psychopath.
I mean, the cat in this movie is kind of a psychopath, so
Yeah.
there you go.
He was in Death to Smoochie. He was in 1 Hour Photo, where he also played a psychopath. Okay, so this was when Robin Williams was like in full, like, I'm a dramatic actor stage.
All right, so
The
the
Final
cat,
Cut, which was a psychological thriller.
the cat is in the center of this new Triforce, consisting of Elf, Bad Santa, and the Christopher Nolan Robin Williams movie.
Well, no, I was gonna say like Elf, Bad Santa, and Cat in the Hat. Like that is the Triforce.
No,
He's
the
the
cat in the hat-
upside down triangle.
No, the cat is in the middle of the Triforce. He's the combination of the three who didn't play the cat.
I guess. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. There's a second movie.
Second Robin Williams movie.
No, this podcast wasn't just on Cat in the Hat. We completely.
Oh right.
Yeah,
Second one.
we've been recording for almost an hour too.
So do we want to get to Horton now? Because I think we've said our piece on
Yeah.
the cat.
And
It's
here's
a
the thing, we had a short news section today, so the whole hour has just been Cat in the Hat.
there you go. Cat in the Hat. Amazing shitpost. Interesting product of the 2000s.
Oh fuck.
This is
I
probably
It's either your thing or it's not. That's
I am glad
the
to
general-
finally have gotten over my childhood trauma, but I am just left with what?
I don't know. I still have fun with this one. I don't love it as much as I used to, but it's fun.
So Horton Hears a Who. By
Horton Hears a Who. Right. So, after the critical and financial failure of The Cat in the Hat, as we said, Audrey Geisel forbade any further adaptations of her late husband's work to be made in live action. But animation, that was okay. And thus enter Blue Sky Studios and their 2008 adaptation of Horton Hears a Who, directed by Jimmy Hayward, who would go on to direct Freebirds, and Steve Martino, who would go on to direct the Peanuts movie. It was released in 2008.
Wait, one of them directed Freebirds?
Jimmy Hayward.
We gotta go back in time to stop turkeys from being on the menu. We gotta go back in time to stop Dr. Seuss from allowing movies to be made from his
Well,
work.
he didn't allow them. His wife allowed them. Anyway,
We gotta kill Dr. Seuss's wife.
she's dead already.
Who the hell's greenlighting it now then? Who greenlit the Blue Sky Grinch movie?
The
That's what I'm
Seuss estate,
Illumination.
whoever's in charge of the estate now, I don't know.
What the fuck man, copyright law is so stupid. Why does some like random ass bum get to decide the legacy of someone else's work?
Horton Hears a Who released in 2008, where it was well received critically, and against a budget of $85 million, it grossed $298.5 million. So decent hit. I don't really have much regarding production history of this movie. So plot synopsis. So, like the book it's based on, it's about an elephant named Horton who comes across a speck on which a bunch of individuals known as Whos live in the town of Whoville. And nobody in the jungle of Newell believes Horton that there can possibly be tiny people living on a speck, but he's insistent. But the jungle turns against him and tries to destroy the clover, while Horton does his best to protect it and find a new location for the speck to rest and be out of any harm's way. While at the same time, on the speck, the mayor is trying to keep everything under control. So, what do we think of this one?
Now, I remember you said you wanted to talk about this movie in particular because you had a lot of things to
I
say
did.
about it. Why Horton?
What do you mean, why Horton?
Well, why this one?
Why pair this one with the Cat in the Hat?
Or no, just like what makes this stand out to you?
Based on the fact you're asking that question, I'm guessing this movie left you not feeling much.
No, it was all right. I did like it. I think it's one of the better Dr. Seuss movies, but I don't really think too much about it. I mean, again, I thought the Lorax was like one of the more popular ones, not Horton.
Here's the thing. This is a movie I loved as a kid. Rewatching it again, I'll admit it's more of a mixed bag. But I do think, like, its positives and its negatives for me are very fascinating. Because here's the thing. I think what's directly taken from the book works great. But it's a lot of the new additions that I feel are very off. let me start with the stuff that doesn't work well for me. So the politics of Whoville never made sense to me.
We are
Like,
going to have a festival, and you are going to like it.
it's a mayoral line. Why is it a hierarchy, like a family, like bloodline? Why is it like a king? Because JoJo's next to be in line,
And he's the only
but
son.
but he's the mayor. They don't have elections. It's just a long bloodline. Okay. And the thing with JoJo feels very underdeveloped. He says he doesn't. Well, he doesn't say it. The narrator says he doesn't want to be mayor. But what does he want to do instead? He goes to the Star Tower to be who he wants to be. He wants to make a lot of noise. Does he want to be a tinkerer, an inventor? It feels like there need to be more. Actually, good question. Have you guys ever seen Seussical?
I
I haven't. No.
remember I remember a production of Seussical that I helped tech for. I don't know if you were there.
Yeah, yeah.
I do not
I
remember too much about it.
Well, I love Seussical. And Seussical mainly adapts Horton Hears a Who, as that's the main basis for the storyline, even though there's other Dr. Seuss stuff. But in Horton Hears a Who, Horton and JoJo have a connection because they're both like kind of eccentric that nobody really takes seriously. I feel like that should have been a connection here. It felt like it could have been laid out perfectly because JoJo goes to the tower at night. I feel like maybe he and Horton could have had conversations at night, and and Horton and the mayor could have had a connection during the day. It felt like it could have. It felt like it was kind of leaning towards that, but they never actually do that. And like at the beginning of the movie, Horton hears a help from the spec, but we never actually get an explanation for what that help was. That could have been JoJo, like at the observatory, like venting his frustration at his dad. I don't know. I feel like there needed to be more with JoJo. What do you think?
Honestly, yeah, that seems pretty fair. Then again, it would also kind of take away from JoJo being the silent character throughout most of the movie until the climax. I think that's what they wanted to go for overall, but like, who is saying
Yeah,
that?
I don't know.
out
I was fine with the amount of time JoJo got because like he's kind of like an archetype, so I feel like you're able to kind of just get his whole deal. Like people always talk about character development, but like thing is like I feel like I get his entire deal. Like he doesn't need to be that much of a complex character. Like I'd rather them just like not waste my time on just trying to like add an extra dimension to something that's already flat than just kind of like accepting that we kind of already get it.
Fair enough. But another thing I just don't get is why is the Who Council so insistent on keeping everything safe? Like, because after the whole chase scene with Vlad, and there's a little bit of destruction in Whoville, everybody's crowding at the mayor's house, like, we want an explanation. The council says everything's fine, and they start to leave, but the mayor's like, no, wait, let me explain. Do they want to know or not? And I feel like I've done a lot of the talking. What do you guys think of this movie?
It's okay. Like I don't really have much to say about it. I just thought it was okay.
Yeah, honestly, I think I'm on a similar boat with Patrick. I do remember liking this as a kid, and as an adult, it's still fine. What kind of breaks it for me, though, and this is gonna hurt, I don't think Jim Carrey as Horton works in this movie. I haven't really seen Jim Carrey in other voice acting roles, at least to my knowledge, but I think he's at his best when he is himself in live action, being a character, because that's what he's best at. He is a living cartoon character, but I don't think the voice works.
Is it because like we're only getting half of Jim Carrey? Like we're getting the voice, but not the physicality?
I guess it is a little distracting. I don't think Horton's movements perfectly replicate what Jim Carrey usually does in his performances. I don't know. It's something that kind of took me out of it, and Horton twerks at one point, so that caught me off guard.
What about the rest of the voice acting? Like, what about Steve Carell?
They're fine. I liked Vlad, not the cookie Vlad, the vulture Vlad,
The bad
the
Vlad.
bad Vlad.
A lot of the Whoville stuff feels a bit odd to me, and could have been handled in different ways. But I still think there is plenty to like about this film. I mean, for one, this was the first Dr. Seuss movie to be animated. I still think it looks pretty good for 2008. What do you think?
Yeah, a lot of exaggerated movements coming from most of the characters. The location designs like fit right at home with Dr. Seuss, like especially Whoville.
One thing I respect about Blue Sky is they were probably the first studio in 3D to try to replicate kind of 2D type animation. Because like it wasn't just this, but like Scratton, the Ice Age movies, and obviously the guy who directed this later went on to direct the Peanuts movie. And
Hmm.
yeah, it feels very 2D.
Yeah, like the movement, like the overall aesthetic, the Seuss stuff. Yeah, like sure, it's aged a bit in some areas, and I do think it's maybe a little too detailed in some areas, but I still think it holds up pretty well. There's one thing in this movie that even as a kid elevated it for me. This is gonna sound really weird. The musical score. The score for this movie was written by John Powell, who has written score who usually does scores for animated films. He composed, I think he co-composed for Shrek. He composed for How to Train Your Dragon. He's a great talent. I don't know why he went so hard with this score, but like even at the beginning, when you're seeing like the journey of how we eventually get to the spec and the music builds and builds, and we eventually get that choir. Like I've never really heard a choir infused with a film score before. That's just so cool to me. Like even nowadays, I never really hear that much, or maybe I just don't notice it. But that always felt so impactful. And my two favorite moments are when Horton is chasing Vlad up the mountain, and again the music just builds and builds and all that brass, and that shot of him like realizing that the clover is in that huge field and the camera turns. That hits so hard. And also at the very end, when the Who's are trying to make their voices heard, and the music is infused with all the noise they're making. I don't know why. Like the music, like the score for this movie, like is phenomenal to me. Am I the only one?
Yeah, I didn't really think much of it personally.
Okay. Greg, do you have a comment?
Except maybe the climax where everyone's like shouting "We are here." That's about it though.
Yeah, I
Red?
thought the comics was pretty good. What was the question again? Could you repeat that?
The question was, what did you think of the score?
I don't remember the score. I'll be
Really?
honest. Yeah. I mean, it was clearly wasn't bad, but didn't leave much of an impression on me, I guess.
Like I said, even as a kid, I don't know. I knew the score was like something was really something,
Buddy,
and
you were
even now,
fascinated by a speck.
I don't know. I just even nowadays, I still think the score is fantastic. And like I'm serious, it does kind of elevate the movie for me, as weird as that may be. Like I think the movie overall is like it's good, but it's more of a mixed bag than I remember it being. And I have no idea why this movie ends with everybody singing a reprise of "Can't Fight This Feeling," but I always think of this movie when I hear that song.
Going back to weird plot threads. There's this
Hmm.
one point where Ned had to leave and he said like this is bigger than me. I got to go do this, honey. I'll be back. Uh what did he do? Because in
I
the
have
very
no
next scene,
idea.
he's back in his house.
That's another thing that doesn't make sense, actually.
Maybe there was a cut scene somewhere. I don't know.
This movie does keep true to the spirit of the book with its message, help everybody, like, no matter how small a person may seem, like, a big voice can be heard. I think it's also trying to incorporate some other messages. Like, is it just me, or is there, like, a slight climate change commentary?
I guess, yeah. It's snowing in Whoville and the scientist says it's the end of the world. Also, use your imaginations and don't let any Karen kangaroos tell you otherwise. I'll never get over the line. That Horton is a menace. He has those kids using their imagination.
And questioning authority.
How despicable.
It does end a bit too ideally, but then again, so does the book, so it's fine.
Was there a Kate in the book?
No. It wasn't. Actually, here's something I just learned. Katie is voiced by Joey King.
And we just
Who was
talked about Bullet Train not that long
the
ago.
yes, she was the prince. I never knew that. Granted, I don't really know Joey King from a lot of stuff, but
I know her
interesting.
from a bunch of like horror movies she's in.
Also, I have no idea. There is a Henry Kissinger reference and a JFK reference in this movie.
I did
I
not
don't
pick up
know.
on those.
We will put a speck on Mount Newell before the end of this decade. I don't know why they're. I guess because Dr. Seuss also had his hand in political cartoons, maybe. Do you have anything else to add?
Not really.
Not even anything regarding the anime sequence?
No. I guess it was kind of funny. It went on a little too long. Although it was kind of funny how the lip syncing was supposed to be bad and much slower than what they were actually saying. Why are you
Red?
asking me about the anime sequence? I'm not the weeb here.
I'm asking in general. Red, do you have anything to say about the anime sequence?
Not
Anyone?
really. There's nothing like I don't. There's a reason we talk more about the Cat in the Hat. I don't have much to say about this movie. It's just okay. Carrie's the performances were good. Like it was a fine voice acting. It looked okay. I guess the humor I'm kind of hit or miss on. Honestly, I don't really like the pop culture kind of elements to it. Like I kind of like the anime thing. But I felt the emotional stuff was pretty well earned. With the climax and the scene where he's like looking through the forest and whatnot. But yeah, that's really it.
I looked into why the anime scene was there, and according to Jimmy Hayward, the inclusion of the sequence was done as kind of a reference to the original book being an allegory for post-war Japan.
That is a deep cut.
That is a deep cut.
That's
I
why?
think
That's the only reason?
that's why. Just to be like, hey, yeah, a Japanese connection. I think they almost cut it, but like test audiences loved it, so they're like, we're keeping it.
They won't know the reason. It's fine.
Yeah, Horton Here's a Who. It's okay. Like I said, it's not as good as I remember it being. It's not bad though. It certainly has its positives. It has its negatives.
Would you put this above some of the other animated Dr. Seuss movies?
Objectively, yeah, I'd say it's the best one, but subjectively, I think that the Jim Carrey Grinch and the Cat in the Hat are just a bit more fun. I don't know.
They're more memorable for sure. Like I'll be
there's
honest, like I have no desire to really rewatch any. Here's the thing. Oddly enough, I think Illumination is the Lorax is the Dr. Seuss movie I remember the most about, even though I think it's awful. Same with Cat in
well,
the Hat. Like I guess because they're bad, they kind of like stand out to me.
and I guess because like there is like some novelty in seeing like the crazy Dr. Seuss aesthetic in live action, like with the production design of both the Grinch and the Cat in the Hat. Like Dr. Seuss does like lend itself incredibly well to animation, but it's just neat to see in live action, I guess.
Upper lips notwithstanding.
I mean, I don't know. I'm a weird individual. On some level I have enjoyed all the Dr. Seuss adaptations. I don't know.
I thought
That's
you
just
didn't
me
like the
though.
Illumination Grinch one.
I don't like it, but like I can tolerate it. Like I still stand by it is a gorgeous looking movie. But that's about it. So Red, you're next.
So I don't know if you guys remember, but when we last time I talked about a movie, Princess Mononoke, my last recommendation, during that episode, I went on a very long kind of rant about the history of James Bond and action cinema. You guys
Okay.
remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
You didn't cut it out, right? From
I
the
don't think I even got to working on that yet.
Well, don't cut it out because it's good leading for this, and this won't make sense if that gets cut out. But basically, I figured, you know what? Why don't we talk about a James Bond movie, huh? I believe I said before that I believe that James Bond in the '60s was when James Bond was truly itself, and it wasn't kind of beholden to trends. Because like the first two James Bond movies were Hitchcock riffs, and then during the '70s onward, they were kind of doing their own thing. So it was just the late '60s is when Bond was like itself. So I was basically deciding between Goldfinger, which is basically considered to be like the Bond movie that the first like true Bond movie. It's when Connery's it's the Connery film that kind of like defined the formula, or On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is the only movie that George Lazenby did, but I kind of think it's sort of the apex, the pinnacle of the Bond series. And I decided that, you know what? If we're only going to talk about one Bond movie, I might as well make it like the Bond flick that I think is the peak of the series, both like actually like filmmaking wise, but also like in terms of like culturally. And also, it'd just be easy to do like the one Bond that only had one movie, you know, so we don't have to like, because I feel like if we talk about Connery, is like, you know, there's some context because like, you know, his performance kind of changed throughout the movies and like, you know, there's stuff like that. So yeah.
So that's why next week we're talking about Octopussy.
Yeah. No, we're talking about On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So yeah, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. That is from 1969. Yeah, 1969. Directed by Peter R. Hunt. Who fun fact about Peter Hunt, he was the editor and second unit director for the first 5 Bond movies. So in a sense, he's kind of like the ultimate 60s Bond director because he was the only one that worked on all the films. Now, this won't necessarily give you. Have you guys seen any Bond flicks before?
Nope.
I've seen No Time to Die.
Okay, so okay, you guys have only seen like Craig movies. Okay, so this is gonna be interesting because one of the only criticisms people have about On Her Majesty's Secret Service is that, you know, like Lazenby's performance isn't like that great, especially since he came off Connery. But you know, I'm kind of curious about how someone who's only seen like Daniel Craig, who's like so different from Bond, kind of reacts to this like take, because like I think George Lazenby is like a pretty straightforward traditional Bond, but he's just kind of like a boring one. So like in a way, he's kind of just like the sort of like default, kind of like the base level Bond, and every other Bond is kind of like building on top of it. So I mean, I know Connery is, but like you know what I mean. Connery kind of infused his own kind of personality into it a bit, and this one he just kind of feels like he's just playing the page pretty straight. So it's gonna be interesting seeing what you guys think, because this movie is now regarded to be the best Bond movie, or at least one of the best, but at the time of its release, it wasn't. It's just kind of grown up in esteem over time as people kind of like looked back on it. Because again, this was the first non-Connery Bond flick, so that threw off a lot of people. So it kind of like soundly rejected it. But you know, as time's gone on, people are like, actually, was the movie like that bad? And but the one thing people still kind of hold against the film is the performance, and I don't actually think the performance is that bad. So like, I'm kind of curious if you guys will agree with me there. I'm finally going to talk about James Bond. You guys got an ending for this?
So next time, James Bond. And speaking of Bond, gravy, baby.